This is an off-the-shelf video on full thrust light. So I've known about full thrust light for a little while now. They are available free online from Ground to Zero Games. And I also have had for a while some Babylon 5 miniatures. And I've been waiting for an opportunity to get these Babylon 5 miniatures into a game setting, but I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to go about that. But now I have also free online. I now have in my hands a fleet book, fan created, that translates the Babylon 5 ships into full thrust format. So here are here's my theme appropriate background, play mat with a nice deep space theme going on. These are the Babylon 5 ships I was mentioning. I'll play with just two, one-on-one dogfight here. So I've got in model terms they call this a Minbari cruiser, and in model terms they call this a Vorlon cruiser. So got my ships, got my measuring device, got a handful of theme appropriate dice, deep space dice, and got the full thrust light rules, again from Ground Zero Games. Just a few pages, very, very, very basics. Nice full color examples, very nice rule set all together. And I'm only assuming I have everything I need. Guess I'll find out. So there's the full thrust light rules, and this is the fleet book that I mentioned that's going to allow me to translate these guys into full thrust terms. But I'll walk through the adjustments I made real quick. So this is fan created. It's a nice lot of information here. Chapters broken down by race. But what I did was, let's take the Minbari cruiser here. I made, so I took, using the side and front line drawings, I went ahead and in game terms I'm going to have this be the Minbari fast attack cruiser. So what you get in the fleet book here, you can get all this information on this ship, your little display with the symbols you use to play, mass, classification, hull 21, damage control 4, drive systems, NVP, CPV, NPV, CPV, armament, defenses, and sensors. Now, again, I'm only going to be using the information here that corresponds to the light rules, which means I'm only using a few pieces of this information. So that's the Minbari cruiser, which in game terms be a fast attack cruiser. And this one did not work out as nicely. So again, this was Vorlon cruiser. But by line drawing, it kind of looks like this ship here. However, this ship is a super dreadnought, a hull, 60 hull points. So basically, these two ships would not be matched at all, right? The super dreadnought, I imagine, would probably always survive the attack of one of these fast attack cruisers. So that didn't really work out. But by line drawing, yeah, it looks like that ship. So to make this more balanced, I'm going to make that ship the escort cruiser here. So the Vorlon escort cruiser, 18 hull. That's closer to the Minbari cruiser. Main drive 4 armament. Okay, so again, I take my models. I find, I guess, the closest workable and balanced ship, ship types according to the Babylon 5 fleet book. I also have a notebook and pen for the plotted movement of the full thrust game design. All right, so let's get started. Again, it'll be one-on-one, Minbari versus Vorlon. So let's take a look at the rules and jump right in. So I should probably say up front, the reason why I would even bother to do this, considering that there are lots of different free rule sets online and lots of different commercial rule sets to buy and play. I have read over the last couple years, I have read some on the full thrust full rule book, and basically it appears to me to be an incredibly popular game system. I've heard it's very good for large fleet actions. I've heard it's nice fast playing. So yeah, I actually hear a lot of good things about the full thrust rulebook. And so, in order to try it out, it's nice that there's this free light version, and so that's kind of the overall purpose here. It's not just to try out another ship-to-ship combat system. It's to maybe get a little taste of maybe what makes the full thrust rulebook so popular. Looks like I got everything to play. You need models or markers. You need record sheets. That's my notebook. 6-sided dice, ruler or tape measure, and a playing area. So in the light game, we're just playing with these elements of the ship systems display. These are all the weapon systems, and these are the weapons. I can't remember what they're called exactly, but the fire control systems, I think they're called. Those two there. So these are your weapons, fire control systems, then hull boxes, and drive systems. So even though in the Babylon 5 fleet book you have a lot more information for each ship, just for in these terms, we're going to play that the Minbari Fast Attack Cruiser has for weapon systems 3 torpedoes, we'll play with 3 torpedoes and 2 beam 2s and 2 beam 1s, and then it has two fire control systems, whereas the Vorlon cruiser has we'll play with 3 beam 1s and 2 fire control systems. Yeah, and then, so hull boxes again, the Minbari has 21 and the Vorlon has 18. And then for drives, the Minbari has 6, main drive 6, and the Vorlon has main drive 4. So actually, the Minbari definitely seems to have the edge over the Vorlon cruiser. So courses and fire arcs. The course or direction a ship is flying is defined by the 12 positions of a clock face. You determine one side of the table, so it'll be that side is 12, and all movement or all courses are defined from that. And then we have firing arcs. Our different weapon systems will show us what combination of these 6 firing arcs that weapon system can engage in. So the example down here. So the system display itself, the icon on the system display, gives you the information you need. So this is the circle with a 2 inside is a class 2 beam weapon, and it fires in, fires in the front 3 firing arcs. So front port, front, and front starboard. So in quick summary, we'll be using measuring units, which can be whatever measurement increment you want to use, inch, centimeter, or something else. I guess I'll try playing with inches here. Distances and ranges are measured to and from the center of the model's stand. Ships never block line of fire and movement, and there are no collisions or ramming. Ships leaving the table may not return to battle in the basic game. So even though I believe the full thrust rules have a much more elaborate sequence of play, for the light game, we're going to have an order plotting phase, then we're going to have ship movement phase, then ship weapons fire phase. So I guess starting off in the very first orders plotting phase for turn 1, I guess we'll set a starting velocity and starting course. And then for the turn, you indicate the change in velocity, change in course. Then you indicate the new velocity and course, which is your starting velocity and course for the next turn. So you have +2 must be +2 in velocity, and P1 must be a course change to port 1. And then you put them together. I guess that would be -3 velocity, change of course, starboard 1. And that would be 1 clock position, clock face position. So all ships indicate one or more drive systems. They're sublight drive engines. So for the Vorlon escort cruiser, it has one drive system with 4 thrust points. So I guess it generates 4 thrust points per turn. A ship's total available thrust per game turn is the total of the numbers in all of the functioning drives. So the Vorlon escort cruiser only has 1 drive system, and the Minbari fast attack cruiser also has 1 drive system, but it generates 6 thrust points per turn. A ship that loses all of its drive systems due to damage is no longer able to change course or velocity and will continue to travel at its current course and velocity until it exits the playing area. So in full thrust light, a ship may only use up to 1/2 fractions rounded down of their total available thrust points for changing course. So that'll be easy. For the Vorlon, it'll be up to 2 thrust points for changing course, and up to 3 thrust points for the Minbari cruiser can be used to change course. So obviously this would be secret in head-to-head, face-to-face play, but I just for play purposes, demonstration purposes here, I went ahead and plotted different initial turn plots. All right, the Minbari is going to be coming from I'll zoom out. But basically the idea is the Minbari strategy is going to be to blast full acceleration to try to get near the Vorlon as quickly as possible. The Vorlon strategy is going to be to start turning right away and figure out where the Minbari opponent is going to go. But anyways, just plotted initial plots. So that's written down. Acceleration in velocity is just plus 1, plus 2, plus 3. Deceleration, -1, -2, -3. Again, up to total available, up to 1/2 of the total available thrust points can be used to change course. Change course is given as P1, P2, P3, etc. for a port side turn, S1, S2, S3, etc. for starboard side turn. All right, so again, this is the top of the board, so that'll be 12 o'clock always. Got a Minbari cruiser. It's going to start over here on that edge of the table. Vorlon cruiser starting on that edge of the table. And now we can do movement phase. Movement can be done simultaneously. Doesn't matter because it's pre-plotted. So we'll do the Minbari movement first. So the Minbari cruiser started at 6. They're both starting at velocity of 6. Minbari cruiser, fast cruiser, starting at 6. Starting course, again, 3 o'clock. And for this turn, the Minbari fast cruiser using all 6 thrust points, because remember it has the 6 drive system, using all 6 to accelerate. So actually the ending velocity is 12 and course is still 3. So and the Minbari cruiser heads straight 12 inches to 3 o'clock. Okay, so for the Vorlon escort cruiser, it also starts at velocity 6. Its starting course is 9 o'clock. And for this turn, the plot was to turn starboard 2. Now, again, the Vorlon cruiser has a drive system of 4. One drive system of 4 thrust points. So the Vorlon player can use up to 1/2, fractions rounded down, of that 4 thrust points to change course. So that's what the Vorlon side did. Used 1/2 of that 4 or 2 to turn starboard. Now he's already going 6, so he's still going 6. And the course now, he was going 9 o'clock, so now he's going 11 o'clock. Now, how this is done, because this ship is turning 2 clock positions to starboard, 1/2 of that turn, rounded down, fractions rounded down, is done at the start of the move, and the remainder is done halfway through the move. So he's moving 6, so it'll turn 1 clock face at the start, move 3 inches, do the second clock turn, and then the remaining 3 inches of the move. So we just eyeball from 9 to 10, and 3 inches, then another clock position change, and the remaining 3 inches of the move. Now we go into the fire phase. Each player rolls a die. 2 6s, 2 and 1. Okay, so the Minbari win the initiative. Minbari's side chooses a ship to fire with. That ship will conduct all its fire. Damage will be assessed and then The other player will choose a ship, and fire will alternate in this manner. So since the Minbari ship is going first, I'm going to consider first its weapon systems again. So 3 torpedoes, 2 beam 2s, and 2 beam 1s for a total of 5 weapon systems. So I'm treating these as, yes, 3 torpedoes, 2 beam 2s with firing arcs to either side, and then 2 beam 1s. However, the ship, Minbari Fast Attack Cruiser, has 2 fire control systems. So I think 2 fire control systems means basically engage 2 targets, or 2 attacks. So yeah, a ship may engage 1 target for each operational fire control system it has, and those targets do not have to be different targets. So again, the Minbari, I think both ships have 2 fire control systems. Yes, both have 2 fire control systems at the start, 2 functioning fire control systems each. So the Minbari Fast Attack Cruiser is going to be able to make 2 attacks. So I think I'll just do 1 torpedo attack and 1 beam 1 beam 2 attack against, obviously, the Vorlon cruiser. Okay, so well, real quick, the Minbari again has the 2 beam 2 weapon systems. There's one oriented from the, what is that, the 1 o'clock to the 7 o'clock. That's the one that he's using because yeah, that's basically firing arc like that around to like here, right? So yeah, 12 o'clock. All right, so that's the beam 2 weapon, and a beam 2 weapon means all these beam weapons have short, medium, and long range. Each corresponds to 12 movement units or inches. So what that means is, so the range is about 15 inches, about. So what that means is at up to 12 inches, because it's a beam 2 weapon, he's rolling 2 dice, and then it's rolling 1 dice at over 12 but out to 24 inches. And then a beam 2 weapon doesn't fire at the 24 to 36 range. So beam 2 weapon, but it's 2 dice out to 12 inches, greater than 12 out to 24, you subtract 1 dice. So at this range, rolling 1 die, yeah. And if you get a 4 or 5, I think it's 1 hit, and if you roll a 6, it's 2 hits. So I think the Minbari cruiser has scored 2 hits on the Vorlon cruiser. So you can roll all of the beam weapons for a ship all at once, but before I move on to the torpedo, we're going to go ahead and assess those 2 hits from the 6th roll of 6 against the Vorlon cruiser. So I'm going to start with the hull boxes. Start top row, left to right. So 2 hull damage. When we get to the end of the row, we will do a threshold check for system damage. First thing I'll point out about the torpedo that I should have paid attention to from the start. Okay, so when you look at the torpedo, they have basically a frontal only firing arc. So by clock faces, we're talking 11 to 1 o'clock. So this would be a pretty important measurement, okay? But I do think if that's the Minbari ship's 12 o'clock, and that is its 9 o'clock, then 10 and 11. So I do think that the target is actually in the front arc, but that would be something to carefully measure and make sure we got right. But now we're going to launch that torpedo. The torpedo is going to have a to hit number by range. So we already said it's about 15 inches in range. So that is the 12 movement units, 3 plus to hit. And then roll 1 die for damage at all ranges. I think I said that wrong. So it's going to be out to 6 inches or movement units, it's 2 plus to hit. Out to 12, 3 plus to hit. Out to 18 is 4 plus to hit. So 15 is going to be a 4 plus to hit. So the Minbari rolls for his torpedo, rolls a 5, which is 4 plus to hit. So the torpedo hits, and it scores 3 damage. So we go ahead and mark that damage, and almost got the threshold check. 3. Whole damage again, top to bottom, left to right. So that's the damage, current damage on the Vorlon cruiser. So real quick explanation here, especially for experienced players who might notice something. Okay, so from the Babylon 5 fleet book, the Vorlon cruiser that I'm using has 3 Grazer ones. I have no idea what that is. That has to be from full rule set or expansion or something. I don't know. I was going to treat those all as beam 1s, but because beam 1s would only have a range of 12, I think that's way too steep of a deficiency for the Vorlons relative to the Minbari, so I thought I'd go ahead and make them, since they don't have any torpedoes or anything like that, I thought I would make them 3 beam 3s, which at least gives the Vorlons something to fight back with. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the Vorlon firing and see what they can come up with. So while the Vorlons have 3 beam 3s, they still only have 2 fire control systems, so they can fire 2 of those beam 3s. It's obviously, again, it's the medium range. It's the 15 inches. So the beam 3s will roll 2 dice at that range, and 2 of them are firing. So I can also roll all beam weapons together. I roll a 1-3, which are misses, and a 5 and a 5, which is each 1 hit. So the Vorlons score 2 hits on the Minbari, and that, so that's knock off 2 hull points there, but nowhere near a first threshold check. So we're going right on to the next turn. The Minbari are going to use all of their thrust points to decelerate, -6, which gives it a new velocity of 6, same course as before, 3. The Vorlon is going to accelerate by, again, the Vorlons have 4 thrust points, and they can use a maximum of 2 to change course. So they use 2 to change back port 2, which will put them back on a 9 o'clock course, and they'll use the other 2 of their 4 to accelerate to 8 to a velocity of 8. So now I'm going to move the ships according to these plots. All right, so those movements put them coming along broadside at, and that's going to be at that close range. So I'm going to roll for initiative for the fire phase. Oh, and also remember that when I moved the Vorlon, it's 2 thrust points course change. So it's 1 clock phase change at the start, half of the move, remainder of the course change, remainder of the move. So in this case, it was change 1 from the 11 o'clock to the 10 o'clock, move 4 inches, course change from 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and remaining 4 inches of an 8-inch velocity. Minbari roll a 1, and the Vorlons roll a 6. So now the Vorlons are firing first. They have those. They still have those 3 beam 3s. They still have 2 fire control systems. So they're going to fire. Now they're firing 3 dice because they're at 12 or less. Well, they're at a range of 5. So they're rolling 3 for 1 beam 3 at that close range, and 3 for that second beam 3 at close range. And this is the 6 is going to be 2 hits. Ooh, and the 4 is just 1 hit, so it's really just 3 hits. A 1, 2, 2, and 3 are all misses. So that's 3 hits, and again, we're going to assess them now before we go on to anything else. So 3 hits on the Minbari. Still short a threshold check. So 1, 2, 3 on the Minbari. So now Minbari will return fire again. First it'll fire its beam 2 at that close range is 2 for 1 hit. Okay, so 1 hit at the 4 there. Now, where does that put us on the Vorlon losses? So now we checked off the last box on the first row. Okay, to clarify, actually it specifies that I'm going to do the threshold check because I hit the end of the first row of hull boxes after all firing from this ship is complete. So now it's going to fire that torpedo, and at range 5, that is 2+ to hit. Yep, he rolls a 2. So he hits, and he's going to assess 1d6 damage, just 1 hull box damage. So now the Vorlons, I'm starting the next row there. Now all the fire from the Minbari ship to the Vorlon target is done, and we've passed 1 threshold check. That's the last box on the first row. Threshold boxes are the end of each row of hull boxes. So now we will do well, I guess I should look here. What I'm going to do is, now I'm only considering the basic systems here. I'm not considering all these other ones. So for the light game, I've got 3 weapon systems. Each of those is a system. I'm going to be rolling 1 die per. So here's 6. No, you know what? I think I'm going to have to pay attention to which is which. Well, here's 3 for the weapon systems. I guess it doesn't matter which weapon system, but 2 fire control systems. These are those 2 there. The dots inside the boxes. So that's 2 fire control systems, and we're playing with 1 drive system. So we're not playing with these other ones. These other ones are all for the for a fuller version of the rules. So that is the drive system. So I think I'm rolling. And because I hit the first row, I think the system's knocked out only if I roll a 1. So this is a threshold 1 check. Yeah. So here are 3 rolls for the beam weapons. The beam weapons. And I did get a 1. So I think I'm knocking out one of those beam system, the beam weapon systems. Now I'm rolling for the 2 fire control systems. All right, 2 6s, so they are fine. And now I'm rolling for the drive. Yeah, another 6. So for the first threshold check, I'm rolling for each of the systems. Again, considering only systems in the light rules. And because it's the first threshold check, that system is knocked out on a roll of 1. So the Vorlon system, the Vorlon ship lost a beam weapon system. So the Vorlon ship is going to return fire. Even though it lost one of its beam 3 weapon systems, it still has 2, and it still has 2 of its fire control systems. So it's still firing those beam 3s at close range. So that's 3 per. And how much damage? So he's got a 6 for 2, another 6 for 4 damage, and a 5 for 5 damage. 1, 2, and 3 are misses. So the Vorlon have caused 5 hull points damage on the Minbari. So similarly, we hit that first threshold check. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 hull boxes marked off. Again, we hit a threshold 1 box. So we're rolling for all of these systems. So I'll just roll for the 3 torpedoes first. And they're knocking out on 1s. Up. Rolled a 1, 5, and 3. So one of those torpedo systems is knocked out. Rolling for the 2 beam 1 systems. 2 and a 4, they're okay. Rolling for the 2 beam 1 systems. Yep, rolled a 1 and a 5. So one of those beam 1s are knocked out. Rolling for the 2 fire control systems. 6 and a 6, so they're okay. And finally, for the drive, and a 6, okay. So the drive is okay. So in that attack, hitting that first threshold check, the Minbari's lost a torpedo weapon system and 1 beam 1 weapon system. And so that's basically it. That is full thrust light. You're going to continue on each turn, plotting movement, which, by the way, I really like. This plotted movement is even as simple as this is light years ahead of simple, simple, naval style movement on a tabletop. So go on plotting changes to velocity and course. It's obviously nice that, especially if you have a lot of ships on both sides, all this can be done simultaneously. Fire away with your systems, and try to destroy the opponent first, or damage the opponent enough that they drift off the play area, or whatever types of scenarios you want to come up with. But yeah, that's full thrust light. That was all the basics: movement, plotting, firing, assessing damage, threshold checks, the different types of systems, basic systems that make up your ships. And that's it.